The night air in El Paso carried a strange kind of silence, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that comes after something breaks. The desert wind scraped against the walls of an abandoned motel on the outskirts of the city, pushing dust through shattered windows and flickering neon light that read vacancy. Inside room 12, the woman who trusted no one was watching herself in the cracked mirror. Her name was Riley Hart, and even her reflection seemed to hesitate before looking back. There were bruises on her knuckles and faint shadows beneath her eyes, the kind earned from too many nights awake and too many promises broken. She had been living here for 6 weeks, paying cash every Friday to a clerk who didn't ask questions. A faded duffel bag sat on the bed, filled with burner phones, a switchblade, and a single photo, a girl, about 10, laughing in the sunlight somewhere in New Mexico. Riley never looked at it for long. Outside, the hum of engines grew louder, trucks moving slow, headlights crawling across the dry highway. Riley's chest tightened. She went still, the kind of stillness that hides fear beneath control. She turned off the light. A voice outside the door spoke low in Spanish. Another answered, then a silence that pressed like a hand over her mouth. She reached for her gun. The door creaked. Riley Hart, a voice said through the wood, calm, measured, accented. You've been difficult to find. She froze. That voice. She knew it from whispered warnings, from the kind of stories told in fear and disbelief. The man who ruled Juarez from the shadows, who missed nothing and spared no one. Diego Navarro. Riley didn't answer. The door opened just enough for light from the hallway to slip in, framing a tall man in a black suit. His expression was composed, but his eyes were the color of ash before the wind takes it, quiet, watching everything. He stepped inside as if he owned the room. "Who told you my name?" she asked. "You did," he said simply. "When you ran." Riley's grip on the gun trembled, not with fear, but fury. "You don't know anything about me." He looked around, the cheap curtains, the bag, the single cup on the table. "You live like someone waiting for the world to forget her." He met her eyes again, but it hasn't. There was something wrong with the way he spoke, not threatening, not boastful, just certain, like a man describing the weather before a storm. "Why are you here?" she asked. "To see if the rumors were true," he said, "that the woman who took something from me is still alive." Riley swallowed. Her pulse was hammering, but her face stayed cold. "If I took anything from you, it was already broken." He almost smiled. "Maybe, but even broken things can matter." He stepped closer, slow enough to make her flinch without realizing it. The scent of smoke and cedar hung around him. "Put the gun down," he said quietly. "Not a chance." "Then at least point it properly," he said, your hand shaking. For a second, she hated that he was right. She steadied it. He studied her, not the weapon, not the stance, but her eyes. "You don't trust anyone," he said, "not even yourself." Riley's jaw tightened. "You got that from a file." "From your heartbeat." He turned slightly, glancing at the mirror. "You broke that tonight." She hesitated, then nodded. "Didn't like what I saw." "Neither do I," he said softly. "But I never look away." He moved closer, until the distance between them felt dangerous in a way that had nothing to do with weapons. "You shouldn't have come," she said. "I didn't come for you," he replied. "I came for what you're hiding." His gaze flicked toward the duffel bag. Her stomach twisted. "Don't touch that." He didn't. He just stood there, studying her like a puzzle with one missing piece. Then, from outside, the sharp crack of a gunshot. Riley flinched, dropping to the floor as instinct took over. Navarro turned his head, utterly calm, and said something in Spanish into a small radio clipped inside his jacket. "Your people?" she asked, voice trembling. "Yours," he said. "Or what's left of them." She stared at him, confused. "You're not here to kill me?" "Not tonight." He holstered a weapon she hadn't even seen him draw. "You stole from the wrong man, Miss Hart, but maybe not for the wrong reason." Her heart was pounding so hard it hurt. "What do you think I stole?" He smiled faintly. "Information. Names. Routes. Things that don't belong to you." She stood slowly. If I tell you why I did it, you won't believe me. Try me." She hesitated, then whispered, "They have my daughter." For the first time, Diego Navarro blinked. A crack in the stone. "Who?" "Your rivals. The ones running through Las Cruces. I took what they wanted. I thought it would buy her freedom." The silence between them thickened. Outside, engines started again. Someone screamed. Navarro looked at her like he was deciding whether to destroy her or save her. "You should have come to me. You're the reason they took her." He shook his head slowly. "No, Riley. I'm the reason she's still alive." Her throat closed. "You're lying." "I don't lie. Not when it comes to children." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a small phone, and slid it across the table. The screen showed a paused video, grainy, distant, but unmistakable. A girl, tied but unharmed, sitting in the back of a truck. Riley's breath shattered. "Where did you get this?" "From the man I killed to bring it to you." She looked up at him, every defense collapsing, her voice breaking. "Why would you do that?" "Because," he said quietly, "someone I loved once trusted no one either." For a long moment, neither moved. The neon light from outside blinked red, then white, then out. Then he turned toward the door. "Pack your things. You're coming with me." Riley's hand trembled on the edge of the table. "And if I say no?" He stopped in the doorway, his profile cut sharp by the desert moon. "Then you'll never see your daughter again." The wind outside shifted, heavy, dry, carrying the smell of gunpowder. Somewhere far off, sirens began to rise. Riley stood there, the phone still in her hand, the echo of his words hollowing the air around her. And for the first time in years, she realized she might have to trust someone, even if it was the man the whole border feared. She zipped the bag, slung it over her shoulder, stepped into the dark, where Diego Navarro was waiting beside a black SUV with its engine running. He didn't look at her as she climbed in, but in the reflection of the window, she caught his eyes for just a second, calm, unreadable, and watching everything. As the motel lights disappeared behind them, the desert opened wide and endless ahead. Neither of them spoke, but something electric pulsed in the silence, not just fear, but recognition. Because beneath all the danger, all the lies, both of them knew the truth. They were already tangled in something neither could escape. The desert before dawn was a living ghost. The highway stretched endlessly through black sand and bone-pale light, and the world felt suspended, like it was holding its breath between night and the moment the sun finally decided to return. Riley sat in the passenger seat of Diego Navarro's SUV, the cold glow of the dashboard painting her face in shades of blue. She hadn't spoken since they left the motel. Her hand still held the burner phone, the paused image of her daughter frozen on the screen. She'd replayed that tiny clip over and over, searching for something, proof she was alive, or maybe proof this was all a lie. Every time she pressed play, the same thing happened. The truck door opened, someone shouted in Spanish, and the video cut to static. Diego's hands were steady on the wheel. He drove like a man who never doubted where he was going. After what felt like hours, she broke the silence. "You didn't have to show me that video." "I did." "Why?" "To make you listen." Riley turned her head toward the window. The reflection of her own eyes looked foreign, tired, brittle, older than she remembered. "You think that makes me trust you?" "I don't need you to trust me," Diego said evenly. "Just to stop lying." She let out a bitter laugh. "You think you know everything." "I only know what people hide," he said. "And you're hiding more than your daughter." The words hit harder than they should have. She looked at him then, his profile sharp against the first light of dawn. He didn't flinch when he spoke, didn't even raise his voice, but something about him felt dangerous in a quieter way than any man she'd met before. She crossed her arms. "You think you can read me like one of your reports?" "I don't read reports," he said. "I read people. You left the bureau 2 years ago, after a job went bad in Tucson. You changed your name, took cash jobs under fake IDs. You stopped existing." Her chest tightened. "So you did have a file on me." He glanced at her, his gaze almost soft for a moment. "No, I had someone find it. There's a difference." "Why?" she asked. "Why the hell do you care who I was?" Because you're the only one who managed to steal from the Navarro family and survive, he said. And because you didn't do it for money. You did it for love. That word, love, it landed between them like a spark in dry brush. Riley turned away, her throat aching. You don't know what love is. I know what it costs, he said. They drove on, the silence heavy with things unsaid. By sunrise, they'd crossed into the desert beyond Las Cruces, endless miles of sand glowing pink beneath the morning sky. The wind picked up dust that shimmered like ghosts across the horizon. Diego slowed the car, pulling off the highway onto a dirt road that led toward a cluster of old gas pumps and a diner shaped like a silver bullet. The sign read Sunrise Grill. Riley frowned. You hungry? Meeting, he said simply. Inside, the diner smelled like coffee, bacon, and heat. Ceiling fans turned lazily. Two truckers sat near the window, heads bowed over their plates. Behind the counter, a woman in her 60s poured coffee without looking up. Diego took a booth in the back, facing the door. Always facing the door. Riley slid into the seat across from him, scanning the room. You always bring hostages to breakfast. You're not a hostage, he said. You're leverage. Her pulse jumped. For what? Before he could answer, two men walked in, both in dark suits, both with the kind of quiet that comes from being very good at violence. One of them nodded to Diego. The other handed him a folded envelope. He opened it, skimmed the contents, then slid it across to her. Inside was a photo, her daughter again, this time in a warehouse, sunlight slanting through metal bars. Her breath hitched. That's from today. Taken an hour ago, Diego said. She's being moved tonight. Where? Sonora. Riley's blood ran cold. That's across the border. I know. She clenched her fists. Then we need to go now. You can't just walk into Sonora, he said calmly. You need a reason to be there. And you need me. Her voice sharpened. I don't need a cartel lord. He looked at her, not angry, just certain. Then your daughter dies. The sound of it hollowed the space between them. Riley felt something inside her fracture. You're using her to control me. He leaned forward, his tone softer. No, I'm using me to save her. For a moment, she believed him. Against every instinct, every scar that told her not to. She believed him. Why? She whispered. He hesitated, then said, Because I owe someone who once tried to save me the same way. Her eyes searched his face. A woman. His silence was the answer. Before she could ask more, his phone buzzed. He read a text, his jaw tightening. They moved her early. Riley's heart lurched. What? Where? Fort Hancock, he said, standing. They're taking her across the Rio Grande tonight. She followed him out, the sun already scorching the sand. Then let's go. He stopped, turning to face her. If we do this, there's no going back. Not for you. Not for me. Riley stared at him, the weight of the past 6 years pressing on her chest, the nights she'd spent hiding, the lies, the fear, the guilt of every decision. I stopped looking back a long time ago. He studied her a moment longer, then nodded. Then we make a pact. He extended his hand. Riley hesitated, then took it. His grip was warm, strong, grounding. But underneath it, she felt something else, restraint. Like he was holding back everything he didn't dare show. What kind of pact? She asked. That you don't run from me, he said. Not until your daughter is safe. And you don't lie to me. His eyes met hers, steady, unreadable. Deal. They released each other's hands, and for a heartbeat, neither moved. The heat shimmered around them, the horizon burning white. Then Diego said quietly, Get in. It's a long drive. Hours later, as they crossed toward the borderlands, the air grew thicker, heavy with dust and gunmetal. The road wound through scrub and rock, past abandoned houses and broken fences. Riley sat silently, memorizing every mile, every turn, because she knew she might need them if things went wrong. But part of her already knew the truth. She wasn't just driving toward her daughter. She was driving toward the man who could either save her life or destroy it completely. When the sun finally sank into the desert, the world turned blood red. Diego slowed the car and pointed ahead. There, he said. That's the house. Through the haze, she saw it, an old ranch, half collapsed, surrounded by black SUVs. Men with rifles patrolled the fence line. Her pulse quickened. That's where they're keeping her. For now, he said. What's the plan? Diego looked at her, the dying sunlight reflecting in his eyes. You're the plan. Riley's breath caught. What does that mean? But he was already opening the door, stepping out into the burning wind. As she followed, the smell of dust and gasoline filled her lungs. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled, though the sky was clear. Something was coming, and for the first time, Riley realized that maybe Diego Navarro hadn't saved her life at all. Maybe he just tied their fates together, for better or far worse. The desert at dusk swallowed sound. Every whisper of the wind, every echo of tires over gravel seemed to disappear into the dying heat, as if the world itself was listening. Riley crouched behind the shattered wall of an old barn, her breath shallow, her palms pressed into the dirt. Ahead of her, through the tall weeds and rusted fences, the Navarro convoy waited in silence. Diego stood a few yards away, speaking in Spanish to two of his men, low, deliberate, without raising his voice. He didn't need to. Everyone obeyed him, without question. The old ranch was maybe 200 yards ahead, its porch lights flickering, its windows blacked out. Shadows moved inside. Somewhere beyond those walls, Riley's daughter was waiting. Diego turned toward her. His eyes caught the fading light, silvered and sharp. When we go in, stay behind me. No one fires unless I say. Riley tightened her grip on the pistol he'd given her. You think I'm gonna just watch? He studied her, the ghost of a smile on his lips. No, I think you're gonna do what you came here to do. Just don't die before it matters. Before she could answer, one of his men approached, a young soldier with anxious eyes. Senor Navarro, they're moving her, he whispered. Two men loading a truck behind the house. Riley's pulse shot through her veins like fire. We're out of time. Diego didn't hesitate. Positions. Within seconds, his crew melted into the darkness, quiet, efficient, deadly. The night hummed with invisible energy. Riley followed Diego through a break in the fence. The sand was still hot under her boots. Her heart pounded, so hard she could hear it in her ears. Every step closer felt like walking into a past she tried to bury. Every gunfight, every failed rescue, every choice that had cost her something she loved. The back of the ranch came into view, the truck idling, two armed men loading crates. She scanned the bed of the truck. No child. Where is she? She whispered. Diego didn't answer. He motioned for her to stay put, then moved forward, ghost silent, until he was 10 feet from the guards. A soft click, safety off. Then everything exploded. Gunfire cracked through the desert air. Riley hit the dirt, rolling behind a water tank as bullets tore through the metal. She aimed, fired twice. One guard fell. Another cursed, ducking for cover. She heard Diego shouting orders, calm, precise. Then a scream, a child's. Her daughter. Riley ran before anyone could stop her. She sprinted toward the sound, heart clawing at her ribs, past shattered windows and gun smoke. Inside the ranch, the air was thick with dust and blood and heat. She kicked open a door and froze. A man stood there, holding her daughter by the arm. The girl's eyes went wide, wild, terrified. Mom. Riley raised her gun. Let her go. The man smiled, a thin, cruel stretch of lips. You shouldn't have come. She fired once. He dropped. The gun fell from her hands. She rushed forward, grabbing her daughter, pulling her close. The smell of her hair, the sound of her sobs, it broke her in half. It's okay, baby. It's okay. I've got you. For the first time in years, Riley let herself cry. Then footsteps behind her. Diego. He stood in the doorway, gun still raised, scanning the room. His gaze softened when he saw them. Is she hurt? Riley shook her head, holding her daughter tighter. No, she's okay. He lowered his weapon. We need to go. More are coming. They moved fast, back through the hall, through smoke and heat. Riley's daughter clung to her, whispering her name like it was a prayer. Outside, engines roared. Diego's men covered their escape, bullets sparking against the trucks. The desert lit up with muzzle flashes and flame. Riley shoved her daughter into the back seat of the SUV, then climbed in after her. Diego jumped behind the wheel, slammed the gas, and they tore through the dirt, headlights cutting across the endless dark. The house behind them burned, a bright wound against the night sky. No one spoke. Riley held her daughter so tightly the girl could barely breathe. When they finally reached the open highway, Diego slowed down. The silence returned, except for the soft sobs from the back seat. Riley turned toward him. "You knew where she was." He didn't answer. "You knew the whole time," she said, her voice rising. "You led me here like bait." Diego's hands tightened on the wheel. "I led you here because it was the only way to get her out alive. By using me. By trusting you to do what no one else could," he said. "They wouldn't have moved her unless they believed you were coming. You were the distraction." Her stomach dropped. "You used my daughter as leverage." He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "I used your love as proof." "Proof of what?" "That you're not who you pretend to be." Riley's pulse stumbled. "What the hell are you talking about?" He took a deep breath, then said quietly, "Your name isn't Riley Hart. It's Riley Keaton. FBI. Deep cover. You were assigned to infiltrate my organization 3 years ago. You vanished mid-operation after the death of your partner. They thought you were dead." Her mouth went dry. "How do you know that?" "I know everything that happens in my city," he said. "But what I don't know is why you stayed gone." Her throat tightened. "Because the Bureau made a deal, one that cost me my daughter. I was supposed to disappear to protect her. But they lied. They gave her to the people you just killed." His jaw clenched. "So you stole from me." "I stole from them," she snapped. "The ones running guns through your ports. The ones killing your men. You think you're the only monster here." The air between them turned electric. He looked at her for a long, unbroken moment. Then quietly, "You could have come to me. You would have killed me." "Maybe," he said, "but I would have kept your daughter safe." The car fell silent. Riley looked out the window. The desert stretching forever, the moon silver on the sand. "So what now?" "You hand me over to your people." Diego didn't answer right away. Then softly, "I don't hand over people who've kept their promises." Her head turned. "What promise?" He looked at her, eyes dark as the road ahead. "You didn't run." Riley stared at him, unsure whether to hate him or believe him. The man beside her was a contradiction, brutal and calm, ruthless and strangely gentle. Her daughter had fallen asleep, her head in Riley's lap. Riley whispered, "She can't live like this. Always running." Diego's voice lowered. "Then stop running." She looked at him and saw something she hadn't seen before. Not power, not control. Loneliness. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. He hesitated. "Because you remind me of someone I once loved. She tried to save me from myself. She failed." "What happened to her?" He kept his eyes on the road. "She died believing I could still be good." The words lingered like smoke. Riley wanted to ask more, but exhaustion pulled at her bones. The adrenaline had drained away, leaving only silence and ache. As the first hint of dawn touched the horizon, Diego pulled the SUV to the side of the road. The desert glowed faintly pink again, a cruel symmetry to the night before. He killed the engine. "You'll be safe here for a few hours." Riley frowned. "Where are you going?" "To settle the rest of the debt," he said. She reached for his arm. "What does that mean?" He looked down at her hand, then met her eyes. "It means I'm going to make sure they never come for her again." "And if you don't come back?" He smiled faintly, a quiet, broken thing. "Then trust that I meant what I said." He stepped out into the growing light, dust rising around him, the wind whispering through the mesquite. Riley watched him go until he was just a shadow against the morning. Her daughter stirred in her arms, whispering, "Mom, who was that man?" Riley hesitated, eyes still on the horizon. "Someone who sees everything," she murmured, "even the things we try to hide." But deep inside, she already knew the truth she couldn't say. Diego Navarro wasn't just walking toward danger. He was walking toward something he didn't expect to find again. And so was she. The desert never forgets what it buries. By the time the sun climbed above the horizon, the sand around Fort Hancock shimmered like glass. The air was so hot it seemed to hum, carrying the faint smell of burned fuel from the night before. The ranch was a ruin behind them, charred, hollow, silent. Riley stood beside the SUV, watching a swirl of dust rise and vanish. Her daughter, Maya, was still asleep inside, curled under Diego's jacket. Every few minutes, Riley checked to make sure she was breathing. She hadn't seen Diego since he walked into the dawn. He'd left her a radio on the hood of the car, small, black, military grade. At first, there was nothing but static. Then, around noon, a voice broke through the silence. "Riley, are you there?" Her heart clenched. "I'm here." "It's done." The calm in his voice chilled her. "What does that mean?" "It means they won't be coming for her again." She pressed the radio closer. "Diego, where are you?" "On the border," he said. "There's something you should know before you leave." Riley swallowed hard. "I'm not leaving without you." He didn't respond. "Diego." "Finally," he said softly. "Then you'll have to make a choice." Static swallowed his voice again. Riley slammed the radio down on the hood, her chest burning with fear and fury. "You son of a—" "Mama." She turned. Maya was standing barefoot in the sand, blinking against the light. Her hair was tangled, her small hands trembling. Riley rushed over, dropping to her knees, cupping her daughter's face. "You're okay. We're safe." Maya looked past her, toward the horizon. "Is he coming back?" Riley froze. "Who?" "The man who found me," she said. "He told me not to be scared. He said you were brave." Riley's throat tightened. "He did." Maya nodded. "He said sometimes people do bad things for good reasons." Riley pulled her into her arms, tears stinging her eyes. "He's right." But inside, she knew what those words meant. Diego wasn't done. He was hunting someone, or being hunted. By late afternoon, she found the trail, a convoy of black SUVs half buried in the sand, bullet holes stitched across their doors. Bodies, weapons, flies, and in the distance, one vehicle still burning. She parked the SUV and told Maya to stay inside. "Lock the doors. Don't come out, no matter what happens." Maya's lip trembled. "Where are you going?" "To bring him back." She grabbed her gun and walked toward the wreckage. The smell of smoke and blood filled her lungs. The heat distorted the world into waves. Through the shimmering haze, she saw him, Diego Navarro, leaning against the twisted frame of a truck, his white shirt torn, blood streaked down his arm. He was alive. Barely. Riley ran to him. "You're hurt." He looked up, half smiling through exhaustion. "You came." She knelt beside him, pressing a hand against his wound. "What happened?" "They had one left. Their leader. The one who ordered your daughter's abduction." Her stomach dropped. "Did you?" He shook his head slowly. "No." He ran. "Then we need to finish this." He caught her wrist. "No. You need to take her and go north. There's a safe house in Santa Fe. Ask for Luis Romero. He owes me." Riley stared at him, anger breaking through the fear. "You think I'm going to walk away now? I didn't save you, so you could die here. And I didn't come this far to lose you." For a moment, they just looked at each other, dust swirling between them, heat rippling through the silence. There was blood on his cheek, sweat on her brow, the desert wind tangling her hair across his face. He whispered, "You're shaking." She realized she was. Her hands trembled against his skin, not from fear, but from something far more dangerous. She looked away. "I don't know what this is." "It's what happens," he said quietly, "when two people run out of lies." Something in her chest broke. "You don't even know me." He smiled faintly. "You're wrong. I've been watching you for months, Riley. Before the motel. Before you even crossed the border. You were trying to disappear. I couldn't let you." She stared at him, the realization sinking in. "You followed me. I protected you." Her voice cracked. "From what?" "From everyone who wanted to use you. The Bureau, my enemies, even yourself." Her heart twisted. "That's not protection. That's control." He winced. shifting, blood seeping through his shirt. Maybe. But control is all I know. She pressed harder against the wound, then learned something else. He looked at her, and for the first time, the mask slipped. The man the world feared was gone. In his place was someone tired, haunted, undone. He said her name like it was a confession. Riley. The sound of it in his voice made her chest ache. Then far off, an engine roared. Another convoy. Diego's head turned sharply. They found us. Riley grabbed his arm. You can't fight. Then run. No, she snapped. I'm not leaving you here. He looked past her, toward the SUV where Maya waited, small and terrified in the distance. His expression hardened. You made a promise. Her eyes burned. And so did you. For a moment, everything went still. The wind, the heat, even the sound of their own breathing. Then Diego reached for her hand, pressed something cold and metal into it. A flash drive. What's this? The truth, he said. Everything, the routes, the names, the bureau's deals. It's all there. They'll kill you for it, but it's your only way out. She shook her head. I don't want your empire. It's not mine anymore. The first trucks appeared on the ridge, dark shapes against the burning sky. Diego pushed her hand away. Go, Diego. He looked up at her, his voice breaking for the first time. Riley, please. The plea in his tone shattered her. She kissed him, quick, desperate, full of every word she couldn't say. He froze for half a second, then kissed her back, his blood warm on her skin, his breath unsteady against her mouth. When she pulled away, tears blurred the world. Don't die on me. He smiled, the faintest flicker of light in the dark. Then don't make me watch you go. Riley stood, turned, and ran toward the SUV, the flash drive clenched in her fist. Maya was crying in the back seat. Buckle up, Riley said, her voice trembling. Behind them, gunfire erupted, sharp, brutal, echoing through the canyon. She slammed the gas, the tires spinning in the sand. Through the mirror, she saw Diego Navarro, one man against a fleet of black vehicles, standing in the middle of the desert with his gun raised. The setting sun behind him, like a halo made of fire. Then the dust swallowed him. Hours later, the night swallowed the desert whole. Riley reached Santa Fe just before dawn, parking behind a crumbling adobe church. Maya was asleep again, clutching the flash drive like a charm. Riley sat behind the wheel, staring at the horizon, her body shaking. She'd gotten her daughter back, but part of her heart was still out there, bleeding, buried in the desert. The radio on the dashboard crackled once more. Static. Then a voice, low, rough, familiar. Riley. Her breath caught. Diego. Silence. Then, you made your choice. Now make it count. The transmission cut. The line went dead. Riley sat there, tears rolling down her face as the first light touched the church walls. She didn't know if he was alive. She only knew that the man who missed nothing had seen her, truly seen her, and in doing so, had changed everything. And somewhere in the distance, between silence and survival, a new war was beginning. The first snow of winter came early to Santa Fe. It fell quietly, soft as regret, dusting the roofs and the dry mesas beyond the city. Riley watched it through the cracked window of a safe house that smelled faintly of cedar and old coffee. The world outside looked clean, untouched, but she knew better. Nothing was ever clean again. Maya slept on the sofa, wrapped in blankets, her small body finally still after days of restless nightmares. Riley brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead, her hand trembling. It had been 6 weeks since the desert. 6 weeks since she'd heard Diego Navarro's voice over that dying radio signal. No one had seen him since. The flash drive he'd given her lay on the table beside a half-empty cup of cold coffee. A small piece of metal, but heavy enough to drown her whole life if she let it. Inside were names, bureau agents, politicians, cartel chiefs, and corporate sponsors, all connected by one thing: money moved through death. The kind of truth people vanished for. She'd promised Diego she would make it count. But every time she looked at the drive, her hand shook, because she didn't know if keeping her daughter safe meant exposing it or destroying it. Outside, a car door slammed. Riley's breath hitched. She moved to the window, careful, slow. A man stood at the edge of the snow-covered street. Not a threat, just still. Watching the house. She froze. Something about the way he stood, the angle of his shoulders, the tilt of his head, felt like memory made flesh. No, it couldn't be. She stepped back, heart hammering. "Maya," she whispered. "Stay quiet, okay?" The girl stirred but didn't wake. Riley reached for the gun on the counter. Then a knock at the door. 3 times. Slow. She aimed at the door. "Who is it?" A pause. Then a voice she hadn't heard in weeks. Someone who's tired of being a ghost. Her breath left her all at once. She opened the door. Diego Navarro stood there, snow melting in his hair, blood seeping through the sleeve of his coat. His eyes, gray, unreadable, met hers. He looked thinner, older, like he'd been walking for days through silence and ash. "God," she whispered, "you're alive." He gave a faint, exhausted smile. "Mostly." She pulled him inside before her heart could stop betraying her. He swayed, his hand gripping the doorframe. "I told you to go north." "I did. You should have kept going." "I couldn't." The truth hung between them, raw, wordless. She helped him to the chair by the fire. He lowered himself carefully, wincing. His face was bruised. His ribs were wrapped under his shirt. "What happened?" she asked. "Some debts take longer to die." She knelt beside him. "You shouldn't be here." He looked at her, the firelight reflecting in his eyes. "Neither should you." They sat in silence for a long time. The snow outside thickened, turning the night soft and soundless. Finally, Diego nodded toward the flash drive on the table. "You looked." "Not yet." He raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because once I open it, there's no turning back." He exhaled slowly, leaning his head against the chair. "Then you're smarter than I was." Riley studied him. "What's on it, Diego?" "Really?" "Proof," he said. "Of everything. The Bureau's involvement, their deals with the cartels, my own family's betrayal. Enough to burn both sides." She swallowed hard. "You could have used it." "I was tired of using things," he said softly. "I wanted to give you a way out." Her eyes stung. "You think giving me this makes you a good man?" "No," he said. "It makes me an honest one." The fire crackled between them. Riley sat back, her arms wrapped around herself. "If I expose it, they'll come for me. For Maya. They already are." She looked up sharply. "What?" He nodded toward the window. "I saw them on my way in. 2 black cars parked near the crossroads. They didn't follow me yet." Riley's heart clenched. "How long do we have?" "An hour. Maybe less." She stood. "Then we run." "No," he said quietly. "Not this time." She turned to him, panic flashing in her eyes. "You want me to fight them? With a child in the house?" "I want you to end it," Diego said. "Use what I gave you. Send it. Let the world see what they've done." Her voice broke. "And then what? You think truth fixes anything?" "No," he said, "but it takes away their power." He stood unsteady, his face pale. "Riley, if you run now, they'll keep chasing you. Forever. You and your daughter will never be free." She stared at him, trembling. "And what about you?" He smiled faintly. "I stopped running a long time ago." The snow outside was falling harder now, thick flakes tapping against the window. Riley crossed the room, grabbed the flash drive, and stared at it. Every instinct told her to throw it into the fire, to burn it, forget it, start over. But Diego's eyes, those quiet, relentless eyes, held her in place. She took a deep breath. "Okay, tell me where to send it." He nodded toward the phone on the counter. "Open the drive. There's a contact list, encrypted. 1 number. It belongs to someone who still believes in justice." "Do you?" she asked. He hesitated. "I used to." Riley connected the drive, fingers trembling over the keyboard. The files opened, hundreds of documents, photos, recordings. Enough to unravel half the border's corruption. She found the number, typed a short message, attached the data, and hit send. The sound of the sent notification was small, almost holy. For a moment, neither of them breathed. Then, headlights flashed through the window. Diego moved first, pulling his gun from his coat. "They're here." Riley grabbed hers, heart pounding. "There's no way out the back." "There's always a way," he said. "You just have to decide what you're willing to lose." The front door rattled once, twice. Then the crash of boots. "Stay down," Diego shouted. Gunfire split the night. The windows shattered. Riley dropped behind the table, returning fire. The air filled with smoke and chaos and fear. Maya screamed from the couch. Riley lunged for her, pulling her down behind the wall. "Mom, I've got you, baby, I've got you." Across the room, Diego was hit. A sharp sound, a gasp. He staggered, blood blooming dark across his chest. "No!" Riley screamed. He fell to his knees, still firing, until the last man dropped. Then silence. Only the sound of wind and snow and a child crying. Riley crawled to him, pressing her hands against his wound. "No, no, no. Stay with me." He smiled weakly, blood at the corner of his mouth. "You sent it." "Yes." "Good," he whispered. "Then it was worth it." Her tears fell hot against his skin. "You're not dying here." He reached up, brushed her face with a trembling hand. "You were right about me. Stop talking." "I don't miss anything," he said, his voice fading. "But I almost missed you." His eyes closed. The fire popped. The world went still. Riley pressed her forehead to his chest, sobbing into the silence. Outside, sirens began to wail, distant but growing. She didn't move until she felt Maya's small hand on her shoulder. "Mom." Riley lifted her head, her face streaked with tears. "It's over." "Is he gone?" Riley looked down at Diego Navarro, the man she should have feared, the man who'd saved her instead, and whispered, "Not yet." Because somewhere, somehow, the truth was still moving. The files had gone out. The world was already changing. Months later, spring returned to Santa Fe. The city breathed again. Riley worked at a small bookstore off Canyon Road, quiet and anonymous. Maya went to school, laughed with friends, learned to sleep through the night again. The news had broken weeks ago. Mass arrests across state lines, indictments, resignations. No one knew who leaked the data. Riley didn't correct them. Every evening, she walked the same trail up the hills, past the pinyon trees and the red dust. She'd stop at the edge, where the mountains caught the sunset, and she'd talk to the wind, as if someone was still listening. "Diego," she whispered once, when the light turned gold. "We made it count." A breeze brushed her cheek, warm, familiar, like breath. And for a second, she swore she heard him say it back.